Stephen Miller has always been one of the most divisive figures in Donald Trump's circle, not just for his hardline policies, but for his combative public persona. His tone is usually cutting and confrontational, which makes it all the more striking when he completely loses his composure on air. And that's exactly what happened. A full-blown meltdown that ended with him being temporarily cut from the broadcast. We'll break down exactly how it unfolded in just a moment. But first, don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support helps us keep bringing you independent coverage like this. Now, before we show you the full clip of Stephen Miller's on-air breakdown, let's start with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who had a few sharp words for him.
Is that they are scrapping and grasping at straws because they have nothing else. Laugh at them. Stephen Miller is a clown. I've never seen that guy in real life, but he looks like he's like 4'10", and he looks like he is angry about the fact that he's 4'10", and he looks like he is so mad that he is 4'10", that he's taking that anger out at any other population possible. Like, laugh at them. Laugh at them. Yes, they are dangerous. Yes, we're here to be strong for one another. We need to expose the lies. We need to never let off the gas when it comes to protecting one another, exposing the lies, documenting things. We're seeing this too, right? And so I think it's very important to be able to hold multiple things at once. And we've seen this work in other cultures. We've seen this work in other countries. Yes, the resistance to authoritarianism is very real. The risks of abuse of power are very real. But one of the most powerful cultural things that you can do to a political movement that is predicated on the puffery of insecure masculinity. That's what this is about. This isn't, people talk about toxic masculinity, more than it, like, let's put that to the side for just 1 second. This is about insecure masculinity. And one of the best ways that you can dismantle a movement of insecure men is by making fun of them. By having secure men who aren't afraid of successful people around them, who are good dads, who have strong values, also participating in that as well. So, like, that's what I have for that. And also someone said, short kings are great. Absolutely. I'm not here. I want to absolutely make sure that I talk about that. I'm not here to make fun of anyone's anything, but the way people overcompensate over their own stories is what I'm talking about there.
It's crucial to underscore just how harmful Stephen Miller has been as a driving force within Donald Trump's administration, not only for his influence behind the scenes, but for the real-world damage caused by the policies he's pushed. These have been some of the most divisive and widely condemned measures we've seen. Targeting vulnerable communities, tearing families apart, and deepening racial and cultural divides. What's even more disturbing is Miller's attempt to frame these actions as somehow protecting ordinary Americans. That couldn't be further from the truth, and thankfully, he was called out on it right here.
Do you have any idea how much of ICE's workforce and resources have had to be reprioritized? How much of the Joint Terrorism Task Force's resources have had to be reprioritized to fight these domestic terrorists? Do you have any idea how many resources are spent
you keep
trying
calling
to
them
hunt
terrorists,
down and track
but isn't that hyperbolic to call them terrorists?
What is... if anything, I'm understating the severity of the situation. What issue was more central in 2024 than turning back the border invasion? And since the day we came in, ICE officers have been subjected to a nonstop campaign of physical violence and harassment every single day. And outside the Portland field office in particular, every night, they come, they assemble, they fight, they try to impede movement, they physically attack. For what purpose? Because we had an election, Boris. We had one. What's the purpose? To use
Stephen,
actual physical violence to change the result of the election. To say you cannot turn back the border invasion. Do you have any idea how many resources we have had to redesignate to deal with these street terrorists?
Stephen Miller's arguments are flimsy and irrational. His claim that cities like Portland, Chicago, or Los Angeles are facing domestic threats simply because people are peacefully protesting injustice has no foundation whatsoever. It's a fear-driven narrative meant to divide and alarm the public, and even that tactic is collapsing. Miller couldn't clearly defend his own point stumbling through the discussion until, ironically, his microphone cut out and he was removed from the broadcast altogether.
You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seemed, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue. We'll try to fix that and get back to you after a quick break. Stay with CNN.
I'm sure it was just a technical glitch, but honestly, it's hard not to laugh when it happens to Stephen Miller. It felt like even the microphone had reached its limit and said, "That's enough." And when the audio finally came back, so did his usual combative tone as he launched into yet another flimsy argument. One that instantly collapses when you consider Donald Trump's own track record.
Is to make it impossible for ICE to carry out ICE enforcement. When in our history have we tolerated unlawful riotous assemblies night after night around FBI buildings or ATF buildings or DEA buildings? This is the textbook definition of domestic terrorism, using the actual and imminent threat of violence to keep federal officials from doing their jobs. And unless we send in troops and resources, then we will continue to bleed federal law enforcement resources in these street battles. It's absurd, it's unconstitutional, and must be put down.
You cited...
When have we ever accepted attacks on government buildings? Oh, right, January 6th, the day violent rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol, many of whom were later defended or even pardoned by Donald Trump. Let's be honest about what's really happening here. It's good that mainstream outlets are finally starting to pay attention because at this point, Stephen Miller is effectively calling the shots. As I've said before on CNN, Donald Trump isn't running things the way he once did. He's handed real power to figures like Stephen Miller and Russ Vought, while he focuses on optics, giving speeches, tweaking White House appearances, and surrounding himself with loyalists who are cashing in on this administration. That's the reality behind the curtain. And it's exactly why Miller is losing it on national TV, desperately trying to distract from a presidency spinning out of control.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration policy...
I said it's a dumb question. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. But
it's a dumb question.
So no, this policy is not designed to...
I thought when I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
Well, I just want to be clear and precise. I appreciate you trying to qualify my questions, but nevertheless, I think it's a fair one that a lot of people have.
My full answer is no, that is a lie, and it's a dumb question. But you said something else baked into the premise of one of your questions. You said, well, aren't we provoking... Illinois governor says we're provoking actions that are unlawful. Why would the mere presence, just think about this for a second, if I put federal law enforcement and National Guard into a nice sleepy southern town, is anyone going to riot? Is anyone going to try to shoot them in the face?
Well,
Are they going
to try to attack them in the street? Building
they would say
full of people in the middle of the night covering their faces without identification, without identifying themselves, there might be concern among the community, especially if American citizens are being, especially if American citizens are caught up in that, which some reportedly were.
We netted over 30 foreign terrorists who are members of Train
and American
Nicaragua,
citizens
who,
also
by the
wound
way,
up apprehended in that.
They torture women and children. Those American citizens are now safe from Train Nicaragua. You know,
Stephen Miller's latest interview was easily one of his worst. A complete collapse on air. It's especially alarming because he still holds major influence in Trump's inner circle, quietly shaping policies that impact millions. The hypocrisy is clear. He attacks unelected bureaucrats while acting as one himself, operating behind closed doors with zero accountability. Alongside figures like Russ Vought and billionaire allies such as Larry Ellison, Miller is part of a network focused on power and control, not public service. That's why independent journalism and progressive voices like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are so vital. They shine a light on the truth and hold those in power accountable.
I think there's two things that are happening at once, and this is something that's very important for people to understand. One, there absolutely is an unprecedented abuse of power, destruction of norms, erosion of our government and our democracy in order to prop up an authoritarian style of governance. That is happening. However, they are weaker than they look. And it is important that we remember that, because what they rely on is the impression of power, the perception of inevitability, in us giving up in advance to say, oh, what's going to happen if I stand up, etc. Nothing's going to happen. They rely on that perception of inevitability and power so that people comply in advance and acquiesce in advance and give up in advance. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump is at record levels of unpopularity in his tenure. The Republican House is at record levels of unpopularity. They are underwater across the board, and they know it. And that is causing them to double down in public, but it is backfiring. That is why, whether it's a shutdown, whether it's all of this, they want us to blink first. And we have too much to save. Protecting people is too important a task for us to give up before anything even starts.
This is exactly the kind of messenger and moral leader the Democratic Party needs right now. Anyone who says that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez isn't part of the future of the party simply isn't paying attention. You can have your favorite candidate, but the truth is, her message has always been clear, consistent, and deeply rooted in integrity. She stands for taking on billionaire corruption, unrigging a broken political system, getting money out of politics, and meeting this moral moment head on. That's the kind of leadership America needs right now. So as we head into the next election cycle, I hope every candidate you support is doing the same. Saying no to corporate influence, rejecting special interest money, and standing up for real people across this country. That's how we rebuild trust. That's how we move forward, and that's how we win. If you want to support that message, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.